Some days I'm truly convinced that money can buy love. Now, for most people, it seems like, oh, no. Clearly, love is one of those things that money can't buy. I'm not too sure about that. And in general, I'm the type of person that if many people believe it, I start to really question it. So, as we all know, there's increasing economic pressures all throughout the world. The job market is what it is in the United States. AI is doing what AI was intended to do, to replace certain menial jobs or jobs characterized by menial tasks, right? And I can't say that this is not appropriate for the way that humanity is supposed to be going, right? But at the same time, evolution is not actually taking a natural course because, well, the powers that be are shifting us in a very intentional way. So, with that said, because the economic pressures seem to be increasing at an ever rapid rate, well, then it only makes sense that relationships are going to be impacted. And in fact, they're already impacted, right? So what is it? I don't know how many, I think like 50% of marriages end in divorce or something like that. Most of them are initiated by women, like 70 or 80% initiated by women. This is not a women hate channel, by the way. I'm just saying that's what I've heard, right? And I said that to say, like, we're not really gonna harp on like that whole thing, right? But I say all that to say that it seems to me like because economic pressures are increasing, well, then it will only make sense, at least eventually, right? In the next 5-10 years. I mean, it's already making sense now, since money is usually the leading cause of divorces, from what I understand. It only makes sense that 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 years down the line, well, the economic pressures, I don't think, are going to get any more relieved on the people who don't own the means of production, right? And people have this thing about the middle class, and that, yeah, no, I don't really believe that there's a middle class. There's people who own the means of production and people who don't, right? So, with that said, it only makes sense that because wealth is going to be much more localized to a decreasing population, well, then people are going to make much more business-minded decisions than for marriage, for deciding who to marry, than they do, let's say, love-minded decisions, right? And by the way, this is already happening. I'm only looking outward and trying to project the next few decades, right? But it's not like this is a far cry. This is already happening right now. People are marrying people for economic reasons right now. They have been doing so for who knows how long. And I'm not sure if that's incorrect, right? Because, I mean, part of me is like, all right, let's get cynical with it. When you think about it, why would a woman choose a not very rich man over a very rich man? There's some reasons, and then there's not others, right? So I think because we have the luxury of living somewhat comfortably now, even though we're not top earners, we can sort of buy ourselves a little bit more time with figuring out our relationships. However, again, wealth is going to continue to increase, or the concentration of wealth is going to continue to increase into an ever decreasing population. So eventually the gap, the disparity between the top earners and everybody else will be so vast, and it will be so apparent, right? The lifestyle would be so apparent. Lifestyle differences would be so apparent that I find it hard to make sense of why a woman would choose to not just deal with a very rich man. And now I'm centering this on women, but I can think of men too, right? So even though, I mean, the dynamic is pretty much lopsided, it's not a 50-50 thing going on between men and women in the dating scene. But and that's like by a long shot, like it's nowhere even close to 50-50. But I don't intend to sound as if I'm blaming this on women. I'm not sure exactly who I'm blaming it to. But when I think about what people characterize as love, right? Or qualify as love, it seems like most of these qualities are traits that become even more expressed the more economically secure a person is, right? So I'm like this, okay, not to say that everyone is so economic minded, but I'm like this, okay. Nurturing, calm, tender care, communication, and patience. All of these are, at least in theory, supposed to be improved the less stress there is on the woman in particular. So then I find it hard to believe that the more you earn, and then the more you can also buy back your time, well then that also means you're going to be creating an ever increasingly comfortable environment for a woman to step into and love you, right? I keep trying to not frame this in a way that like makes women the center of it, but I find it hard to. Obviously I'm a man, so there's blind spots that I don't even know are there. But I mean, you know, the pressures are already as bad as they are now, right? The economy, the job market, is already as it is right now, and people are already staying with people or tolerating people more than they should because of how many resources they have, right? And it's no surprise if I were to say that a man is more respected the more money he has. Like, it's just like, I don't think anyone's gonna bat an eye at that, right? The more money he has, the more people respect him. And we're talking real money, right? We're not talking a few $100K a year. We're talking like money that can buy your life type money, right? Money where someone can ask you, hey, how much debt do you have? Oh, that's it? Here's a check. And just pay off your debt, just like that, on a random Thursday. That type money, right? It seems to me like money is, love is really, it's been degraded into a commodity. But at the same time, I'm not sure if it has been degraded per se, because I don't really know if love was ever intended to be anything but a driver for commerce, right? To get you to spend money, particularly romance, right? The whole idea of romance and how much commerce that drives, right? How we go on dates and do romantic things and buy gifts and gestures and things like that. Think about how much money is spent in those transactions. So then naturally, the more money you have to spend on that, the more romance, right? The more romance, I'm not gonna say the likelier it is for you to find love, but when you do find someone who you love, right? Well, then the more you can give of that, it makes sense that you can buy love in that way, you know? I guess all I'm really saying is that the broke version of you is not is is not even close. The person that you can attract as, I'm not gonna say the broke version of you, but perhaps the current version of you if you're not a top earner. The person you can attract now may be several leagues, I mean light years away from the person you can attract if you're a top earner. And we're talking top earner, I mean, because there's people worth $1 billion, $1 trillion. Let's say top earners are 7 figures and up, right? 7 figures and up. Maybe 8 figures and up, right? So at that point, it just becomes, is that person going to choose you? Because now they have way more options. But in terms of, can you feel more loved? Well, of course. And you know what? I'm framing this in a romantic sense, but now that I think of it, I don't think, even when it comes to one's parents, I don't think your parents will ever respect anything that you do ever in your life. It doesn't matter who you marry, unless they're rich, right? It doesn't matter who you marry, how many kids you have. If you become rich, your family will respect you till no end. No end. They will tolerate all manner of things from you. Right? Because you're rich. You can buy all of their lives. You know, so part of me is like, wow, how cynical. And I admit, it makes me a little bitter. But at the same time, I'm like, it only makes you bitter because you're not rich yet. Right? Because you're not rich yet. But if you were rich, you'd probably just be like, yeah, it's a matter of fact. So what? You know? And maybe this is part of the self-image shift that I need to undergo in order to bridge that gap between the current earning version of myself and excuse me, the top earner version of myself. It's almost midnight, by the way. I just took a nap and I guess I'm somewhat already tired, but we're going. Love is one of those things that I would really want to believe you cannot buy. But the more I look out into the world and try to seek examples of love, the more I see, no, love can absolutely be bought. Or maybe said more accurately, though I may be getting too granular, but perhaps said more accurately, the environments that facilitate the cultivation of love can certainly be paid for. You know? But then you have, then you have the examples of people, oh, well, so-and-so, this actor or this musician or this politician or whoever, he is very rich. And he just got divorced, you know, the first, second, third time, whatever. I find that mostly to be the case for people who are workaholics. Who, yeah, they're rich, but they also have no time left. But if there's a balance to where you're rich and you also just have an abundance of free time, I find it hard to believe that you're the type of person who just has an abundance of resources and then also an abundance of time to enjoy your resources, and you cannot buy love with that combination of, you know, circumstance. It's just very hard to fathom. But hey, what do I know? I'm really just a music artist from Miami. By the way, I'm Simbo Lumen. If this is your first time here, welcome. We are creating a safe space in the comment section to open these discussions up, right? And this is something that some days I'm on the fence of, and other days I'm not so on the fence of. You know, I'm not so on the fence of believing that love is really a commodity. Is really a concept that has been turned into a commodity through especially in the late stage capitalistic world that we live in. I don't really know where you're watching this video from. You know, it may be from anywhere but the United States or the first world, right? Which I say that with all due respect. The first, second, third world countries are, that's a whole other topic, right? But with that said, let's talk about it in the comments. If you found this useful, please feel free to drop a like, subscribe, because I'm opening these discussions every single day. And I look forward to sharing something else with you very soon.